I asked ChatGPT who the best wedding photographer in Rutland was, and I wasn't on the list. So we're going to talk about it.
Welcome to The Unfiltered Lens, a podcast for creative wedding suppliers finding their way in business, online and everything in between. No pressure, no pretending. I'm Gina Fernandez, a photographer, filmmaker and work in progress, just like you. Here we mix strategy, stories and the stuff no one usually says out loud. If you're into real talk without the fluff, you're in the right place.
It was a couple of weeks ago. I was, taking a break from editing and browsing social media as you do, particularly Facebook. I do use Facebook not to post anything personal or anything work related, but I do use it to comb through some of the industry groups. And I saw a post. I don't remember which Facebook group it was in. It was a photographer's one for sure, but I don't remember which one. And I saw a post about someone who had asked ChatGPT about wedding photographers in the area to see what the results were. Now, it has been for a while, been low mumblings of how ChatGPT is being used as a search engine. So, couples are going to these AI models and asking who are the photographers in the area or whatever they're asking, but sourcing their wedding suppliers through these AI models. Okay, so this is where we're moving. So this particular person must have been curious as to seeing what the results were. And I was just as curious. So I went to ChatGPT and I asked it, who's the best wedding photographer in Rutland? And here's the kicker. I wasn't even on the list, not a mention. I had a cup of coffee in my hand. I stared at the screen like, wait, what? I literally shoot some of the happiest, most stylish weddings in Rutland and I'm not on the list. Like, what is going on? So that's when I started the deep dive even further. I may have given this a couple of half hours of my time, okay? So, my first thought was panic. Am I failing? Is my work not good enough? And then I was like, hold on a minute, that's really ridiculous. I know my work is strong. I know my couples love it. I've got galleries that make me proud. So it cannot be that. And then I realized, actually, it's not about the work itself, like the photos themselves. It has to be about how I'm showing up online. These lists, they're measuring SEO, directory presence, keywords, volume, things that have nothing to do with how good a photographer you are. It's like being in an art gallery in London and expecting the local corner shop to put you on their top 10 list. It's like they're two different things. So I did ask it again and I said specifically, what about Gina Fernandez? And ChatGPT laid it out all for me. I highly recommend you do this, guys. So it listed what made me good. It talked about my style, my personality. I think it scraped my Google reviews because it spoke about clients mention this, that, and the other. It worked out my locality because it did say, yes, she's local to Rutland, but it had stroke Leicestershire, East Midlands. And I was like, aha, they are the phrases that I have been optimizing more so on my website. And it did talk about my experience and reputation. Again, I think it's basing it on reviews. It did scrape Bridebook because it said over 50 weddings shot. And I think on Bridebook, on the listing, there's a tick box as to listing how many weddings you've photographed. So it's within a bracket category. It spoke about me being featured in wedding blogs, winning awards, and good reviews. So it's clearly scraped the internet. And then it talked about the downsides to me how bloody dare it. One of the things was cost. It said she's not the cheapest, which is, I'm like, okay, that's fine, fair enough. And this I was shocked about, actually. It said popularity, availability. She seems busy. Many weddings, good reviews. If your date is well ahead, then it's likely to be fine. If it's short notice, you may find she's already booked. Now that I found interesting, and actually looking at some of my Google reviews, there are clients who say we were so lucky to get her. She's usually really busy. So yeah, I mean, that sounds incredibly positive, but I can absolutely see how that can be a downside. And then it talked about style fit. I then asked ChatGPT, considering all these pros and cons Gina has, why didn't she show up for best wedding photographer in Rutland if she is so bloody good? So it basically came back with what I thought it probably would. It said that my website isn't loaded with keywords like Rutland wedding photographer, which is absolutely spot on. It actually isn't. Some of the photographers it was comparing me with locally seemed to be shooting like big volume in the area and on every directory going. They've got hundreds of reviews. So the internet was clearly thinking, yes, this person must be the safest choice. And then it said that photographers who worked in a more curated sort of editorial way like me don't tend to appear in these top 10 in your county lists. These lists favor people who tend to be a little bit more online everywhere, as opposed to people who take a more considered approach. And I just sat back and laughed and went, it's not personal. It's not personal. It's not about talent. It's just the internet doing what the internet does. And here's the bit that really reassured me. The people I want to work with, the ones who care about the atmosphere, the emotion and design, they're not scrolling these lists anyway. They're finding me on Instagram, or they're talking to their friends, or they're landing on my website because something about my work feels right to them. I also do think, looking back, what I typed into ChatGPT was rubbish. Who's the best wedding photographer in Rutland, right? That wasn't the best thing that I could have searched for. And I don't want to do like a whole knee-jerk reaction based on what it spat out at me. I'm really hoping that my ideal client, who I've studied very well, wouldn't be typing something like that into ChatGPT. I would be hoping that they'd be a little bit more refined in terms of what they're searching for. However, I'm not delusional or naive enough to think that it could be a starting phrase that they put into ChatGPT. So I'm not going to have a knee-jerk reaction to what I found, but I am not going to be naive about this either. It did teach me something about brand and visibility. I think the real lesson this whole little curious deep dive I went on taught me was it's not about choosing between being an artist or being visible online. It's about actually balancing the two in a way that makes sense for the kind of business you want to run. You can genuinely be really good at what you do. You can be respected by your clients. You can make the work you're really proud of and still not show up on Google. That doesn't make you less. It just means your online footprint, as it were, isn't wired the same way as photographers who play like the SEO volume game. And that this is where that nuance lives. I mean, I can't sit here and say, oh, well, I'm too artistic to ever appear on these lists. That's not true. And honestly, I think that's a bit of a cop-out. Visibility matters. Being findable definitely matters. And people discover you online, long before they really inquire. So SEO does play a big part. But on the other side, I can't throw myself onto or into every directory. I have thoughts about why I wouldn't be doing this. I will do another podcast episode on my thoughts on directory listings. But I'm not going to be doing that. And I can't, optimize my website for every keyword under the sun, because that's going to push me into a space that I don't want. I'm not trying to build a volume based business. I'm trying to attract the right people, the ones who value the emotion, the atmosphere, and the ones who are going to value the way that I balance the documentary storytelling with a bit of an editorial edge. So, really, the question becomes, how do I stay visible without diluting the brand? How do I show up online with intention instead of just chasing these lists? And that's the balance. So I need enough SEO that I'm discoverable, but not so much that it turns me into a totally different photographer, right? But it is tempting though. I see other photographers blitzing every directory and I think, oh, should I be doing that? But when I look at the work I love and the clients I love, I realize I'm not chasing traffic. I'm building something more deliberate. So it's definitely worth having a play with ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever the other AI models are, and seeing where you come up, but remembering to not have a knee-jerk reaction to it all. Like I did type in like a stupid phrase, right? I did type in, who's the best wedding photographer? No AI model can tell me who's best. What is best? What does that even mean? So yeah, I really should repeat it with who are the wedding photographers in area, and then maybe some categories for where I think my brand is, and see what it spits out that way. So that's the middle ground I've landed on, and that's what sort of feels right for me. I have had a rebrand. A lot of the copy on my website has changed very recently, so I know that doing this search actually was really beneficial. It's given me a kick up the bum to go, actually, you've probably dipped in some SEO areas. So I'm going to start refining my website over this quieter period. I say in inverted commas, quieter. What is that? I'm going to start refining my website so it speaks clearly to both humans and Google, but not keyword stuffing, just a lot more clarity. A few just intentional tweaks that will help me find the right people without pulling me into this like SEO chaos. I'm curating my portfolio more tightly. I have got to a point in my business where I really want to be showing the work that speaks to the right type of client. I did get into the habit of showing everyone sort of everything. I was just speaking far too much to the general as opposed to really specific. And I'm not talking about looks or inclusivity. I'm not talking about that. There's just the types of weddings I want to do, the types of atmosphere I want to capture. And really show that I'm a mix of documentary and the more stylized version, and that mix is deliberate. And also the other thing that I'm going to do is be a little bit more thoughtful about where my name appears online. I am on, like, you have free listings for Hitched and Bridebook. I think you need them for backlinks, but I'm not on any paid listings, or I haven't really featured my work with brands who align with my new style more. So that's something for me to think about, but I have a lot of thoughts about that I need to unpick. But maybe instead of paying for directory listings, maybe I start interacting more with the blogs or featuring other suppliers that I want to work with more, that align with my brand. Maybe coming up with some sort of joint blog or something, just so I'm capturing the audience I want. And that for me is the balance, staying visible, staying intentional, and staying high quality. It's like the difference between being on every menu in town and being the place people book because they want something memorable. I'd much rather be the meal that they talk about afterwards. How cheesy was that? Anyway, if you're running a creative business or, a wedding photography business or a wedding creative business, and you find yourself comparing your name to those that are on lists or even AI recommendations, literally to please just take a second. Lists do not define you. Visibility is only helpful when it brings you the right people. You really need to be asking yourself, who actually needs to see my work? Who values what I do? And am I showing up in the places that they are already looking? Not being on a list isn't a failure. Sometimes it's simply a sign that your strategy needs refining, not reinventing. For me, best isn't defined by an algorithm. It's defined by couples who trust me with their memories, and it's defined by work that feels honest and elevating to create. So if you ever feel invisible online, breathe. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be in the right places. So bear that in mind when you develop your marketing strategy. Right, I'm going to head off now. And I'm going to let you go and ask ChatGPT who the best wedding photographer is in your area. Because I know if you've not been doing it already whilst listening to this episode, you know you're going to do it. You should do it. Do it. Go and find out. And then go and ask ChatGPT what you need to maybe do to fix it with a pinch of salt. ChatGPT is not gospel. All right then, check you guys later. Bye.
If something in here got you thinking, let me know. Drop me a message on Instagram at Gina Fernandez Photography. If you're listening on Spotify, you can drop me a comment on the episode, and there's always a poll in the show notes. I love hearing your take. And hey, if you're enjoying the pod, a quick rating or review really helps. We all know engagement really helps. If you fancy jumping on an episode to chat all things business or wedding world highs and headaches, send me a DM. I'm always up for a good conversation. Catch you in the next one.